This is On Imagination. Welcome to the Ethical Asshole, and I am your host, the Salty Bitch. This is a topic that I'm going to walk very logically and gently through. We, as the majority of our whole, are a bunch of racist motherfuckers. And the more I dive into the world of language and linguistics, the more this really comes out and surfaces. And it's at a point where I can't be quiet anymore. When I was a child, I was taught by everybody, teachers, everybody, that the English language came from German and Latin. This is the biggest load of bullshit in the world. The English language came from Old Norse, ancient Greece, Latin, Old Persian. Old Persian. I'll be sitting there working on a word. Magician is a great example of this. Alchemist is a great example of this. Our numbers are actually Arabic numbers, created by the Arabs in the 9th century during the Islamic Golden Age. They had naming rights. The naming rights were removed, and that's just fucking dirty. In the world of linguistics, that is about as filthy and as dirty as a Pulitzer Prize winner crossing out the actual inventor, writer's name and putting their own name over in crayon. It is plagiarism on such a level. It's disgusting. And the more I study in language and linguistics, the more I'm going, this doesn't make sense. And as I investigate the actual origin of the word, I'm going, ancient Greek is not where this comes from. It came from Arabia. It came from Persia. A wonderful example of this is the word sophist. Sophie. The word is not ancient Greece, but if you look up the word, it's all going to be, ancient Greek. No, the word is Arabic. It means purest or pure. And in the Arabic, Old Persian culture, pure and wisdom and love were synonyms. I'm going to say that again. Sophist, Sophie, is Arabic for pure. So when Pythagoras named philosophy, he was actually saying pure love. It is a prejudice that I'm seeing over and over again. The word alchemist, for instance, we were told that that was ancient Greek. But when you actually look up the origin, it was Old Persian. And the more I dig deeper into this world, for instance, the word logic does not come from ancient Greece. It does not come from Latin. It comes from Old Persia. There is more in common, and I'll show you why. It's the GI and the GIC. The GI and the GIC is an extension from ancient Greece, from Old Persian. That's why they say magi, logi, and genii, or genie. This is where the word genie comes from, which then became genius, which is why we now have the word genius. It doesn't come from genius as in ancient Greek. It comes from Old Persian. And the other three words that match this is genius, logic, and magic. Anytime you hear GIC, anytime you see GI, that is the evolution of Old Persian language. It's not an evolution. It's actually like a block. It's integration. It is integration. And when you can see how the words were integrated from Old Persian into ancient Greek via Zoroaster and Pythagoras, because there was a crossover there. Now, Pythagoras lived not in ancient Greece. He lived in Egypt. And as a result, he wrote everything backwards at times. He did speak a different language, and he had a lot of Arabic influence, which means the majority of work that Pythagoras developed was actually from the Persians, not the ancient Greeks. In addition to that, he got the majority of his work from Zoroaster. Zoroaster was actually the father of the offshoot of Zoroastrian and Hindu and Arabic, Old Persian. And that fueled an entirely different culture. And this is all the stuff that's been buried because of the disgusting prejudice against the Arabs. And it's at a point where when you start digging out the linguistics, you can see how all the naming rights were stripped from this culture and supplanted with ancient Greek, or worse, Latin. Now, Latin isn't wrong, but it was weaponized. The substantial evidence of how Latin was weaponized in the world of linguistics is really telling. You see, while they doctored the history books, they also doctored etymology. The thing is, when you doctor something, you leave a mathematical footprint that tells everything. And when you know how to read mathematical psychology, did everyone hear what I just said? Mathematical psychology, you get a different story, a very different story. And suddenly you can find out who's lying, who tampered, and who did what. So when you look at the mathematical psychology that's been left all over word, linguistic, etymology, language, logic, and evolution, you can see precisely who did what, where, why, and when, and you get a very different story than what the history books are writing. So while you're reading the words, there's a whole nother story taking place in the mathematical psychology in linguistics that tells a completely opposite story, which says to the logician, that's not logical. Why would these people over here, even though the words are saying this, why are they using this footprint? Why is the mathematical psychology telling this story? And it's ironic that as soon as you get over to Ireland, that goes away. You go over to Old Norse, it goes away. You go over to Old Persia, and it goes away. You get into pre-Roman, and it goes away. It only starts as soon as the Roman Empire gets involved. They have their own mathematical psychology. And that mathematical psychology has not changed and is identical. Now, there is somebody else there with their own mathematical psychology that is very, very similar. It's a variant. It's not the same. So there are now two mathematical psychologies leaving footprints all over the history books. And everywhere those two groups have walked, they've tampered. And you can start seeing that mathematical psychology all through history. But there's this perimeter. I can literally take a map and draw you a map of where it ends and how you've got Old Norse, which is pure. That's untampered. You've got Ireland, which is untampered. You've got Old Persia, which is not tampered. And you also have ancient Greek prior to Rome. As soon as you get into that 3rd century BCE, and then from 3rd century, it tells a whole different story. Between 3rd century up to the 4th century, you've got one story. And you can see the evolution of that story. You can see how it's twisting and mangling. And then you see how it's abruptly cut off. And then this new mathematical psychology takes over, and that encompasses everything. And it's contagious. You can see it just moving. So when you sit there and dig out everything, and then that mathematical formula, that mathematical footprint changes perfectly in the 16th century. Again. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here? And you could start to see what they did, how they literally changed it in the 16th century and they evolved it into something different. And that created a new line. It's completely contradicting from what the words in the history books are saying. You've got to be able to read mathematical psychology in order to see this. So when you start breaking it down to these fingerprints that have been left all over the history books, you can read the truth. You're sitting here reading words. This is the other thing that I did, is I read everything from Wikipedia in the United States. And it got to a point where I would reach a certain endpoint and I'd be like, oh, that's being tampered. As soon as I saw that mathematical psychology, I went, no, something's been tampered. And then I switched over to, let's say, I literally went into Norway's Wikipedia. I went over into Germany's Wikipedia. And I got to read their version of our stuff. That's how I learned American history. I learned everybody else's version of our shit. I learned American history through the Native Americans' point of view, and through the British point of view, and through the Norwegian point of view, and through the Irish point of view, also through the Scots point of view, and also through everybody else's point of view. I read everybody's point of view so I could figure out the truth with the US point of view, because they're a bunch of shitty fucking liars. So when I was able to find the constant, because 100% of all accurate, all time, no matter what, it's true. So I was looking for the constants because I'm a polymath, and that's what we do. We look for the constants. And when you find the constants, you condense them all into one, and you're like, yep, this is 100% accurate all the time, no matter what, true. So now you know what you're dealing with the truth. Now you can see all the liars. And when you find all the liars, one of the things you notice in mathematical psychology is this tampering in the language. And it keeps pointing down to, wow, there's a lot of fucking hate going on to the Arabs because oh my God, they actually removed naming rights from them, and that's just fucking dirty. So one of the agendas that I'm on is to restore the truth. That's what I do. I'm an Asha. And restore the naming rights back to their rightful owners. Alchemy comes from Old Persia, and wisdom comes from Old Persia. Everything that Pythagoras did was actually branched off of Old Persia, and they are the rightful owners to the majority of this knowledge and wisdom. It shouldn't be called Pythagorean psychology. It really should be called Old Persian psychology. That is really what this should be. It's going to piss off a lot of people, and I really don't care, because 100% accurate all the time, no matter what. And when you have this many constants coming together, Mother Nature has spoken. And it's 100% backed up by the logic, the math, the physics, and now the mathematical psychology that's been left in linguistics. So when you start really digging out linguistics and you start looking at what it really is, you see an entirely different story being made. So, naming rights. Naming rights are sacred in Mother Nature. Naming rights have a real cherished sanctity, especially in the world of Asha. For God's sakes, we say Asha for a reason. Thank you, and may the kindest of words always find you.